Hello and welcome to our new kind of Corona series about global mobility and COVID-19, where we thought in that difficult period, it is good that and you have so many questions that you have somewhere where you can go to and just ask your question, and we will then basically try to answer all the questions which you might have. We will do that now every Tuesday, at least for the next couple of weeks, or as long as the kind of crisis we currently in is still ongoing, and hope to support you as best as possible from our end. Each time or each Tuesday, we will have a different topic, and we will pick just a topic where we think that is of importance for all of us, and we should quickly discuss. In case you do have also a topic you would like us to talk about, then just drop us an email, and we definitely will consider this as it should be helping all of us. Today's topic is about business traveler, where we had now in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks lots of questions. What can we do about those? Before I would like to go into that topic in more detail, just a couple of points as a kind of summary to the current situation. There's a new or an updated ordinance now in place, the Ordinance 2, which had been updated on last week on the 28th of March, and most likely will be updated this week again. Basically, the major point is that before, the risk countries have been just Italy, Spain, France, Austria, and Germany. Now that has actually increased, so it's all countries except Liechtenstein, which is from a Swiss point of view a high-risk country. High-risk country means that basically the border to those countries is closed, and only in certain circumstances people are allowed in to Switzerland. And on the left-hand side on the slide, you see we listed down who is actually able to come and enter still Switzerland, and for whom definitely there is no possibility to enter Switzerland. As long as the foreigner has a valid permit card in its hands or a valid approval, which allows him also to enter Switzerland, then he still can enter Switzerland. What we did and said last week in our session, that for all the EU nationals, which most likely will start now or in the next few weeks, where we recommended to do the notification process. So in order to allow them to enter Switzerland, this is not any longer possible. Starting from last Friday, the authority have stopped this. So we have to see now how long that will be the case, and how soon still people like EU nationals living currently still abroad, but where they have a start date maybe beginning of April, mid of April or sometime, and we can't get them a kind of documentation or approval from the Swiss authorities, they will not be able to start to work in Switzerland. The authority is aware that that is a very difficult situation for the new employee as well as for the employer, but everything is now based on the current situation that they say this is the most important part, that we really try to do everything to limit the risk of COVID-19, and everything else has to be at a lower priority. The restriction I just raised is for everybody except for people, specialists in the healthcare sector, or from which are important for the Swiss government. Anybody else is really has to look at that restriction and is more or less suffering the same way. Now coming to our today's topic, I'm not quite sure how many people are still traveling from your company. In case there is not already a kind of travel restriction in place, and you still have people maybe who have to enter Switzerland and to come to work here for a couple of days, or to have a business trip planned and need to come. For the moment, you have to tell them basically you need to stay as best as possible at home. If not, then there are two possibilities. If they already have a 120 days work permit in place, or you have done a notification earlier already and it has been approved, then these people are allowed to enter Switzerland. We have seen last week, on the weekend basically, that two people were not let in to Switzerland with a valid 120 days work permit. However, we also have seen cases where there was no problem at all. Even yesterday, there were people entering Switzerland without any problems. So you may want to tell the traveler as well, there is no guarantee that somebody can come to Switzerland. The airline is or is putting a kind of restriction as well, and is taking care or looking and reviewing the documents the traveler has. The reason behind this is that in case the airline will allow somebody into Switzerland, and then at the border the customs says, no, you're not allowed in because you don't have the necessary documents, the airline has to pay a fine as well as has to then take care to take the individual back home or to whatever other country. And therefore, you may have the situation. I had a couple of questions already from people who said that the airline was not allowing them entering the plane, which is based on that reason. In case there is the plan that you still need to have somebody coming to Switzerland and you haven't done already and haven't filed the application for 120 days work permit or the notification, then for the moment you cannot do anything. It depends a bit now on the authority whether they will do or will waive the restriction, which is currently for all nationals who are employed outside of Switzerland and just coming here to Switzerland for business trips or for working purposes. The authorities we talked to yesterday and last Friday are, in their opinion, there might be the ban lifted for EU EFTA nationals after the 19th of April, but they are not sure. At the moment, it's really taking it day by day and see what the situation is. It's also that in case you say you at the moment have a bit more time, maybe you want to file all the applications, the renewals for those business travelers you have, that is not possible because the authority is not accepting any documents or any applications. So at the moment you can't do anything unless the authority is now coming back and saying they're starting to the review process again. We made in this regard two samples. One case is a business traveler coming from Germany, and the situation is a German national is employed by a German legal entity and has a valid 120 days work permit for working in Canton Zurich, which is valid from the 1st of June 2019 until the 31st of May 2020. Now, at the moment, there is a travel restriction, so he's not traveling, but he definitely knows that he needs to come again in June 2020. What can you do in this case? The situation is that at the moment, until the 31st of May 2020, he will be able to enter Switzerland and to come to Switzerland. But for the days in June, whenever he needs to come again, at the moment, nothing can be done. So you really have to wait and see when the authority will start again to renew those applications and to review them again. The notification process, which you may think, okay, we will see until the end of May, and then worst case scenario, we can do the notification process. Maybe you know that the German national has not been in Switzerland this year more than 20 or 30 days. However, I have to say this is not possible, and that has nothing to do now with COVID-19. That has something to do with that his work permit is expiring on the 31st of May 2020, and based on that, the authorities say he could have used the 90 days in this year, and therefore the notification process cannot be used. What you also have to keep in mind, and maybe you are all aware of it, is that the 8 days exemption for the notification is currently waived. Meaning, if you think that maybe the German company has an employee and has never sent this year somebody to Switzerland, then usually what you can do is the first 8 days you can send somebody without a work permit or without the notification, and only starting from the 9th day you definitely have to do the notification. Now, because of the current situation, the authorities say for every day the notification has to be done, or the 120 days work permit has to be in place. Based on the fact that currently no application will be reviewed, so you can't do anything. We just have really to wait and see. And this is, I think, what we are asked at the moment quite heavily, is to be flexible and to take it really day by day and to see what the decisions are from the authority, and what the new situation is. The last example we prepared before we then will answer your questions you have is an U.S. national is employed by a U.S. legal entity and has received the final approval for a valid 120 days work permit for working in Zurich. However, he has not claimed the visa yet. For him, the situation is that great that the work permit has been fully approved. However, the thing is that as he has not claimed his visa, he cannot enter Switzerland, and therefore at the moment he cannot do anything. You may remember that the visa sector is closed until the 15th of June. So until that time, no visa will be issued. So until the 15th of June, he definitely cannot enter Switzerland and come to Switzerland and work. And then we also need to be prepared that most likely after the 15th of June, when everything opens up again, there might be then a mass of visa applications coming, or a mass of people requesting information and visas, and therefore there might be a delay then in getting the visa done. You may have already seen in the beginning of the year, at least in New York, at the Swiss Embassy in New York, it was sometimes that there was we had to wait for 3 or 4 weeks to get an appointment for a visa to be issued, unless it was an emergency thing. But if it's just a normal visa which needs to be issued, then it took quite a while, or you had to wait quite a while to get an appointment. So the earliest possible day for him coming to Switzerland is really end of June. Most likely even in July only, or August. At the moment, no applications will be processed. So we expect as well that as soon as the authority are opening up again, they will have massive work to do, and we then have to see about the timelines. What you also maybe have to keep in mind is that the 15th June, that is at the moment a set date. However, nobody really knows how the coronavirus will be combated, or how we will handling the situation. I assume that in case there will be an increase of number of infected people, the 15th of June maybe are even then delayed, and we maybe are talking about end of June or end of July. I mean, some of the people are even talking about end of August. Now, we don't know. I mean, at the moment, it's really only guessing. So we have to take it really day by day and to see what the situation is. This was more or less an update about the current situation regarding business traveler. We have received a couple of questions which I now like to answer. The first question was about someone who should start tomorrow by 1st of April, but he will only traveling to Switzerland at a later stage. How the situation is regarding social security. Maybe one thing about entering Switzerland before I come to that question. You need to be aware that people entering Switzerland, there are still then the provisions or the regulation about quarantine. So most of them coming from a risk country really have to then first go to the quarantine, and only afterwards they are allowed then to basically to start to work, or basically to come to an office and get their equipment if they start anew. Now, looking at the Social Security situation, it's what I would recommend is, because the individual has not been insured in Switzerland before, that you discuss it with the Social Security authority directly and to see whether they will still register him, even he is not working physically in Switzerland, but staying abroad. I know from the federal authority in Bern that they are currently saying they are willing to be there quite flexible and to get people insured in the right country, meaning in the country they would have been insured and covered without that current situation. But as the person had not been insured in Switzerland before, you definitely have to go back to the Social Security Authority and see what their suggestion is and what you can do. We know from a couple of Social Security authorities, so that is the Ausgleichskasse, which say they are willing to accept the new registrations of those people, and you just have to get registered them with them, and then everything is good. Just don't forget then as well to get them registered with the accident insurance pension fund and so on. So it's not just the our first pillar, the AHV. So it's really all the Social Security aspects. I hope that answers your question. The second question we have is, in the case of an expired 120 days and a later notification for the year, if we prove the person has not used the 90 days per year, would it then be accepted? Unfortunately not. And that has also nothing to do with COVID-19, based on the fact that these 120 days, which we can use under the 120 days permit, are completely flexible, and no authority is controlling it. Nobody is reviewing when somebody takes it and when not. The authority will not allow you to use the 90 days notification. The only situation where that is possible is in case the 120 days work permit, for example, has expired on the 31st of January this year, or maybe the 28th of February this year, because then basically only 60 days have been used. So then you still can use 30 days for the notification. But you only have to look at the expiry date, and then to see if that covers 90 days, then there's no possibility to get to use the notification. The next question is regarding banks, whether they are viewed as being really required and needed, and therefore they maybe are getting their applications quicker approved. From a Swiss point of view, currently banks are not being viewed as really that relevant for getting quicker applications approved. So unfortunately not, and unfortunately you will not get any application for any banker at the moment approved. Unless, and there as well, I mean, if you do have the one or the other person who is in the high rank of your company, and based on the current situation, he definitely is required to come to Switzerland, and you definitely have to do something, then my suggestion is go and speak to the local labor market authority and see what you can do for that person. In principle, it's a no. They are not getting a work permit approved, and they will not be able to come and enter Switzerland. But there is still the possibility maybe that the official is seeing the valid reason behind it and then is approving it. So the best thing is then really to go and ask directly with the authority. And the last question we have, no, not the last question. The next question is, may I ask you to repeat the possible reopening dates for work permits again? At the moment, I cannot even tell you. Currently, the authorities are saying that only after Easter, after the Easter break, they will know whether they might start again to work on work permits for EU EFTA nationals now only. But they will tell us then only when that will be. At the moment, they don't know, because it really depends on the situation and how we best handle it. For non-EU EFTA nationals, the only thing which is at the moment sure is the 15th of June, that until then no visa will be issued. However, there as well, that even can be postponed and can be switched to a later date, depending depending on the situation. We also don't know right now whether applications for non-EU EFTA nationals, whether we can send them in, for example, in May, mid of May already maybe, or beginning of May already, and the authority will starting to review it, even the approvals will not be issued, or if it really means the authority are not even allowed to look at the application. So really at the 15th of June, if that is in the end, we stick to that date. After the 15th of June, we just have to file all the applications, and then they can only start to do it. At the moment, if you file the application, you may have received already, or you will receive either a call or a letter from the authority saying that they delete the file and or send it back to you, the document, and you just have to refile it once the authority are working again. And now the last question we have received is if our employee has a valid work permit but will expire on April 14th. As I understand, we, the employee, can extend his permit, correct? If the work permit you are referring to is for somebody already in Switzerland, like a B permit, an L permit, or a cross-border permit or a C permit, then yes. If we are talking about business travelers, then no. At the moment, at least, there is no possibility to extend those applications, because the authority are at the moment not reviewing any of it. It's only once they are opening again or starting to review those applications again, then you can file the application. But at the moment, this will be not the case. Now, maybe as well as people are, or companies asking people to stay more at home and have them not traveling all around the world, you may have now less people wanting to come to Switzerland, or wanting to come to any other country. So we have also maybe less need to get a new permit. And then as a kind of time management advice, I would tell more or less everybody, most likely there will be no possibility to travel to Switzerland until the 15th of June. It might be quicker, but that everybody should basically work with that date at least. For EU EFTA nationals, then as soon as the ban is lifted again, I mean, they can then enter Switzerland, or you can file the necessary applications. But until then, we more or less have all to stay home and to try to stick to the rules so that the crisis gets over as quickly as possible. This was the today's session about business traveler. I just will take the next 2 minutes to tell you what we do as well, or what you can expect from us in the next few weeks. As said, next Tuesday we do have a new session in that series, and the topic will be return of expats. We had lots of questions now in the last 2 weeks about what to do with the expats which are currently still on assignment, and we would like to take a bit of time with you on that topic. And the week after, we already decided as well on the topic, which will be about home office and all the legal aspects about. You already can sign in on the next session on our web page. However, you all will also get a mail informing you about the event. And then we have the next webinar will be about immigration challenges on the 2nd of April. So that is still this week. And then on the 28th of April about compliance issues, and on the 14th of May about the management people, management staff in international working companies and the special regulations. There's above all of it's about the German and Swiss treaty and everything around it. Then the other 3 webinars we already have updated is about business travelers. They're in length about all the details about it on the 28th of May, and maybe then we are not that restricted as today. Then we also thought about a webinar about the tax equalization, which is when you deal with assignments, sometimes quite a lengthy discussion, which will take place on the 18th of June. And last but not least, about the payroll for expatriates, which also is sometimes quite a nightmare. And we try to give you the information, or give you as much as information possible about it on the 25th of June. What we also started now, because we got so many calls and emails, we do have a hotline which is from 9 till 11, where you can call us under that number, and we will answer you then every question you have. I hope you enjoyed this session, and actually we just received another question about the quarantine. Currently, the quarantine is that people coming from risk countries have to go in a quarantine for up to 14 days. They are informed once they enter Switzerland then about the quarantine. So if you also want to have more information about this, then you can, I think on the website, it was on the website from the Federal Authority about Health, the BAG, and there you can find about the quarantine requirements as well. As said, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you stay all safe and take care of yourself. Have a great week.